Well, good evening, everybody, to what I guess we can kind of call and say the Season 1, Episode 31, Traveling with Radio's redo or re-upload. I guess I don't know how you want to call it, but we corrected, or hopefully we corrected, our issues that we had Monday night, and we wanted to get it on there. And you know what? Instead of recording and going through the same problems again, I figured we'd do it live. So this is kind of a special Thursday night episode of Communication and Cigars. So Monday's episode, which is going to probably get deleted out of there just because that way people won't be too confused. We had some audio issues. We had some video camera issues. We had all this kind of stuff like that. We came back from traveling. That's where the idea of the show came up and everything like that on there. So we said, you know what? That was like a train wreck. That should have been the episode called Hot Mess, because it really was Hot Mess. We had audio that didn't do it, but the video clips we did there, it was all over the place. So anyways, decided to go ahead and do Monday's episode here, redo for Thursday night. Yeah. Okay. Well, you guys got it. So welcome to Communications and Cigars. I'm your host, John Crook, and thank you for going ahead and tuning into this episode. And if you tuned into the first time, thanks for tuning into it again. And what tonight's episode is about is we're going to talk about, some video clips of, for over the weekend of what we did, and some ideas, comments, suggestions about taking your radios and using them in a vehicle that's not yours. So whether it be like a rental car, someone else's car, your wife's car, I don't know, it's something where you're not in your own vehicle, and how to get over and around some of these challenges. So that's what tonight's episode is going to be about. But as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, any thoughts or ideas, go ahead and don't be afraid to drop us an email line here. And we're going to go communications-cigars@jjkcom.com. Once again, communications-cigars at jjkcom.com. And we do thank JJK Communications for all their support that they do provide for us here on the show. Another thing that I actually got asked about on there was, they said, you know what, John, you didn't talk about any cigars on Monday, or maybe you did, and the audio got muted. And then, of course, you didn't do our fun spot at the end on there. So we figured we'll do it there. So tonight's cigar I'm going to talk about is an Avo Avienza. Now, this is very delectable, very robust, and it's kind of an interesting type of cigar because you can kind of see the tube that it came in. It's a square. It's a box press cigars. So cigars can be made in a couple different ways. You know, there's cigarros, which are, the round ones, which are small, which are almost like, per se, for sake of a better term, like a cigarette. And then you have where you start to get into the different shapes and sizes. So, one of them that is on there when they make it is what they call a box press. And you can see when they roll it, they actually press it into a box. Now, the nice thing about this is this was a nice little metal tube that this thing came in. I actually picked it up when I was down in Orlando, Florida, in the airport at Hamcation. So when I was down there at Hamcation, I picked it up there. Really nice, it has a very robust kind of flavor on there. And in addition to it, I don't know, I'm going to see what the official name is. The official name is a Toro Tubos. So it's a Toro size cigar, but it's kind of box pressed down into there. So that's kind of the communication, or that's the cigar part of Communications and Cigars. It was a really nice cigar. The best thing I could tell people when you're getting into cigars is you gotta try a bunch. Hands down, you gotta try a bunch. Because there's going to be times, excuse me, where you're just going to find a cigar that you're like, man, this is crap, and you're just going to throw it off to the side, make a little note of it or something like that on there. And there's going to be other times like, this is an amazing cigar. The Deadwood Tobacco Company is one that I really loved. And once again, that was through experimentation, kind of finding on there and saying, wow, this is a really great cigar. It tastes great. Okay, we can make the joke. Tastes great, less filling. I will say about this is going to be, I don't think it says it on here. It's handmade in the Dominican Republic. It's tobacco leaves from Nicaragua. But one thing I will tell you about this one is a little bit more of a medium to a little bit of more of a full blend down there. And I started to notice where I was smoking it tonight. I was on the porch, just smoking and enjoying it, and all of a sudden, after a while, I took a couple of hits, quick hits in a row, and I started to get that cigar sickness feeling where it's like, whoa, on there. I think we talked about cigar sickness before, but basically the remedy is stop smoking the cigar that you have, or slow down. Yeah, it's hard to say which one it is, but do one of those two, and then grab something sweet to eat, like a piece of candy or something like that or whatever, and then water. Got to be water. You can't be like, I tried it before, like I got cigar sick one time, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll get lemonade. No, that doesn't work. You got to get something sweet, small little thing sweet, and then just drink the water on there. All right, enough about that. Let's move on to tonight's episode. First of all, the people that have checked in, I see Lon's checked in. Lon, good evening there. I know I see a few people kind of coming in. I know it's off, so I don't expect big viewers tonight. Hopefully a lot of people will catch up on the replay there then. But tonight, we're going to show a couple video clips and kind of talk about in between the video clips as to what they're kind of about and what we are discussing. So the first video clip I'm going to show you here is kind of giving a concept of this. And the biggest concept to take away from this video clip is saying and knowing that, you know what, there are going to be times where I am going to want to take a radio with me. And sometimes all you can do is take a handheld. You don't have room for mobile, power for a mobile. It's just, so all I could say is because, and you'll see here, we're going to talk about fuses, we're going to talk about everything that we talked about before, but it's just it's an unnerving thing because I don't want to blow fuses in a rental car I have. I don't want to cause damage to the rental car. I don't want to cause damage to someone else's vehicle I'm in there. But we're going to go to the first clip, and the first clip is going to kind of show how we can still have mobile-esque, okay, advantages in a car by only using a portable on there. So let's go to video clip 1. Alrighty. I want to go traveling. And that's what today's episode is kind of all about, right? Traveling here, right? So obviously I did these videos while I'm traveling here this weekend here. So here's my problem. I want to travel, but I got a rental car. Or maybe I'm in someone else's car, but I'm not in my own vehicle. I don't have my own radios. I'm not on home turf, right? So go, and I want to travel, and I want to use this, or I want to use this, or I want to use this. Guess what? They're going to be the easiest for me to use. Why are they going to be the easiest for me to use? Well, they're going to be the easiest for me to use for one particular reason. They're small and they're portable. Alrighty? Now, when I say small and portable, you have to think that. They have their own contained battery system. Alrighty? They have their own contained aspect of powering. Right? Portable radios have a battery. Most portable radios then have a couple of options. On amateur style based radios, guess what? They usually have, and in this case they do, right there, external DC in. Or they have an alkaline battery pack. These radios sometimes also have alkaline battery packs or battery eliminators, or you just can go ahead and carry a charger, or even better yet, they have mobile chargers that will plug in to the DC cords. Same thing with some of these other radios. They have alternate charging options that are on there. Now, comes into actually kind of a good thing in a way. And the reason that it comes into a good thing in a way is because they're portable, they're easy for me to carry. But wait a minute. If I want more power, if I want to be able to take and have the equivalent of a mobile radio, what can I do? And that's a good question, because I've been asked that a few times. John, you do a lot of traveling. What do you do? Well, I could go with the mobile aspect of things. Alrighty? And I could somehow rig up a mobile in here, rig up the antenna, and I'm going to go over the antenna. I'm going to go over the power here in a little bit. But really, it's kind of like, how can I rig up a mobile? And if I'm traveling a distance, like let's say, for example, I'm going like flying on an airplane. Well, these babies are easy to take, alrighty? But mobile radios aren't necessarily easy to take, alright? They can be problematic. In addition, depending on how I have my portable set up, they may be able to be programmed from the front keypad, where, depending on the mobile that you take or mobile that you get, it may or may not be able to be programmed. So if you're doing like a commercial mobile or land mobile radio type mobile, a public safety mobile or something, those aren't going to be programmable. In addition, if you get one that's like a high power or something like that, yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. Remote head, all these things that make mobiling almost impossible. All right. But there is solutions. All righty. Now I'm going to show you one that I have. And I want to say this right before I start. I've tested this. I've used it a few times. I've had great success and great luck with it. It's not a problem. But once again, this is one solution of many out there. And what I'm getting at is, in this case here, is I'll turn it around, is getting what we call a mobile amplifier. Yes, I purchased this mobile amplifier. It is made by BTEC, an AMP25. It's a radio amplifier. Now, the reason I got it, okay, hands down the reason I got it, is because if you take a look at it, it is U25D. It is TDMA and DMR capable, but it's also capable of doing like P25 and stuff on there. So that's why I wanted to look. So if you see, all AMP 25 amplifiers can be used for analog FM, P25, and then C4 FM, Next Gen, IDAS, DPMR, and MPT 1327 modes. And then the D series, which I have, amplifiers also include support for DMR and P25 Phase 2. Because R and P25 Phase 2 are TDMA. The rest of the modes are all what they call FDMA. They digitalize the frequency, where TDMA, for this is high tier layman's terms, TDMA does time slots. FDMA does the frequency. TDMA does time slots on there. But now the reason I use this is for a couple reasons. One, it is a small device. This is the device right here. Alrighty? It actually is small. If you see my hand here, definitely smaller than my hand. But here's the nice part about it. You have your on-off. You have your transmit power. You have how we interface the radio into it if you want to do it. You have simple controls on the back. And you have the power cord. And guess what? I want to show this here. And it's kind of hard to do with one hand, so bear with me here. But I'm going to show you the fuse amperage on here. And this is going to come really important into... See, I can't even get it open here. Anyways, it's 3 amps. That's what I was trying to get at. This little thing right here is only a 3 amp fuse. Now, the cool part about that is being that it's only 3 amps, guess what? It is going to do, on the top of the box, what I need it to do. 2 to 6 watts. In, output is 25 to 30 watts. Supply is 13.8 volts, which basically is your 12 volts in your car battery, okay? The true measure is 13.8. We all call it 12 volts. Don't know why. Maybe that's another episode on there. But as you can go and see, yes, I did get it from Baofeng Tech, okay? So they did a good job on this here. But anyways, this is the device itself. So there's a couple different ways that this can be used. So you basically are going to take this cable here with it, connect it to your radio, which then connects into the back right here. And then this is going to connect out to your antenna that you have externally. And then boom, you're ready to go. You do not need to do anything else with this if you want to use your handheld. So if I want to take and use my handheld here, my UHF handheld, let's say, and I'm going to do it, I just unscrew the antenna to this cable here to here, and then the cable on the back goes out to the antenna on the roof. I can just use it like this. Now, if I want to, they do give you an option that I can take. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put everything back in here real quick. Small little compact unit, not that expensive. I'm not even sure if they're made anymore. I'm sure someone in the comments will go ahead and say something if they are or not made there. But I'm going to close this back up. It actually gives you a pretty good manual here. Oh. So there actually gives you this little paper manual, but you guys are smart enough on my channel here to figure this out. So we're going to flip it over here. And they do show Baofengs, which kind of a pain in the butt. But let's pretend that radio isn't there. We're going to cover that up, okay? So as you see on there, you just run from the antenna on the radio. And here it goes out. Boom. That's all you need. You don't need anything else. Option 2, same thing. We're going to cover this up here. This radio from the antenna port out into here. Boom, you're good. And then you have your own connection for a speaker or headset or whatever. Now, if you have the plugging that works, you can then take, we'll cover up the radio here, antenna from the radio out to the amplifier. Then what you can do is hook the cable from the output of the speaker mic into the front of the radio. And then what you can do is you can connect this microphone that comes with it right into there. So then that way now you can just use this microphone to key up this radio in this scenario, which is kind of nice and kind of cool. Because if you have a battery eliminator also on here, basically the speaker's in here, the mic's here, but you can kind of set this wherever you want to. Like for an example on here, I've got a nice little cubby hole tray here. Easily I could set this up into this tray here, and then I'm good to go there. So that's kind of something to think about. Is a mobile radio really worth it, or can I do the same thing with a handheld radio here and an amplifier such as this one? That's going to come down to what you really want to do. But I will tell you this, hands down, I can assure you that basically running a mobile radio, you know, UHF, you're going to be 40 to 50 watts. VHF, you're going to be 50 watts. And I'm talking a dash mount mobile now, okay, a dash mount mobile that would be small enough for you to take with, alrighty? If you're a GMRS user, this is great, okay? This GMRS radio here, a UHF, I have it programmed for GMRS. You know what? 4 watts right now, okay? Take and put it into the amplifier there. I now go up to about 30 to 40 watts, right? Your average store-bought GMRS radio, they're doing 25 watts. So already I'm ahead of that, alrighty? But then if I want to, yeah, if you get a UHF mobile, it might be a little more like if you're using commercial or LMR mobile for GMRS, then it might get you a little more power. But really, when we take a look at it, folks, this is kind of cool in that because now I turn my handheld into my mobile. Even more so, when I'm driving, I'm done for the day, I'm in the hotel or I hop out or anything like that, all is as you see here, unscrew it from this connection here, put the antenna back on. Now I'm out and walking about. Maybe if I have a battery eliminator plugged into the power source here, I take that off, but now my radio is totally portable. It's almost like, if you want to say for sake of a better term, converticoms, but slightly different. Motorola had converticoms where you'd slide your portable radio into this holder. You basically attach like a little, almost like a piece in the antenna there too. So when you put it in there and locked it in place, you could use the external antenna with charge the battery, and then the connections in that converticom would connect it so you could use it. A lot of big PD agencies used to use converticoms. I believe New York did. I think Minneapolis did or does at one point in time. A lot of big agencies where they're like, God, we're spending $3,000, $2,000, $3,000 on portables. Now we got to spend another $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, whatever on a mobile. Nah, just assign the radio and kind of go from there. So that's the first part of what I want you to think about as we tackle today's subject of going mobile, or traveling, I should say, with your radio in a rental or a vehicle that does not belong to you. Okay, so that was the end of part one. Like I said in there, it's really a solution. And let's put it that way. It truly is a solution. It's not an end-all, be-all answer. I purchased this one a long time ago, this amplifier a long time ago. And like I said in the comments here, I think maybe I might do that in my tech bench. You know, I try to do once every month about something that's a tech bench. So I think that's what I'm going to do on the tech bench here and kind of show it on maybe get my service monitor out, show a couple different things on there and stuff. And I'll tell you, it does fit a solution. It does fit a gap situation. Now, me personally, if I'm in my own vehicle, I run mobiles, and then I have the handheld as backup and those kind of things like that on there. But that was part one, kind of how do we get over this? And like I said in the video too, like if I'm flying or something like that, I may not be able to take a mobile with me, especially like mine that are in the car. I run not only amateur mobiles, but I run business, public safety, commercial mobiles. There's no way I'm going to take my NX 5000 series mobiles and the dual head, and no, you're not going to take that on vacation with you. Secondly, where are you going to put it? You're going to do your carry-on? Well, guess what? You're going to be random bag check that day and stuff. So this kind of thing really fits a little niche on there. Now I'm going to jump into part two, where this really starts to get into some really big considerations here, which talks about power connections. So let's take a look at part two of this episode, where now we're going to dive into power connections or power availability on a rental car or someone else's car you might be borrowing for that time. Alrighty, let's talk about power for a rental car. This is a big thing that is out there these days. Most rental cars, I shouldn't say rental cars, most cars in general, the cigarette lighter plug is a rarity. It is going away. It's gone almost, kind of deal. You know, you have in this car here, we're lucky enough we have one, and it's relatively available and stuff like that on there. But be careful, folks. You have to understand to be careful, because what's happening is that cigarette lighter plugs give you 12 volts, but they're not going to give you the amperage you need. I know some people that will hands down say, I've been running my radio off of my cigarette lighter plug for years and it hasn't had an issue. Let's do some math here real quick. 15 amps is the fuse on a average 50 watt mobile radio, VHF or UHF, doesn't matter. You talk about HF, you're up to 25, 30 amps, okay? 3 amps on average. Some might be a little more, some might be less, but on an average, these things, 3 amps whatsoever, okay? Do the math. You're going to be blowing circuit breakers, excuse me, you're going to be blowing fuses on here left and right, okay? And the last thing you want to do is be blowing fuses on a rental car or someone car that's not yours. So, I would say that. You got to try to find another power source. And you know what? People, we're resourceful, okay? We're resourceful. Look at power packs. Look at different things out there. There's a lot of 12-volt power sources that can be used and can charge and everything like that on there. But let's talk about other things, because it's not just about radios. We do have other electronic devices and stuff. Some cars come with a 120-volt AC outlet. This one didn't, but some cars do. Okay, my vehicle does, my wife's vehicle does. Not a problem, that's great. Don't think you're going to be hooking up a power supply for those, okay? You really can't. You're not going to be able to plug in a regular old power supply for it. You're going to be doing that. So think of another power source, but you got to, each situation is going to be unique, but you got to be super careful. Let's talk about USB. We're going to close this one up here. USB here, great. USB here, great. And there's a USB. I'm going to kind of camera here so you can kind of see down there. There's USBs there. So there are USB devices everywhere, but only one cigarette light. You know what? Let's go check one more place here real quick. Let's go. Hey, follow me here real quick. All right. Let's see here. Going around and up. Look at that. Another cigarette lighter plug. But here, it says it right on here. 12 volts, 120 watts, okay? That's your wattage, that's your voltage. That is not your amperage. And I'm going to guess that's probably only going to put out 3 amps. So keep that in mind, folks, when you're trying to go ahead, you're doing traveling, renting vehicles, whatever, what you got to do. Alrighty. So, yeah, you know, okay, that rental car happened to have two cigarette lighter plugs in there. So not bad. As it was corrected on the other video, yeah, that one happened to have 10 amps on the back. Now, the one in the back has a little bit more because it was more designed to be like, okay, hey, if you have an air compressor or something on there. But most of your ones up front do not have high amperage on them at all. Like I said, 3 amps is what I've usually seen in the past on there. So you could be running kind of right at some sort of maximum level, maximum threshold on there. So it's something to really think about, because what are you going to do? You got a rental car, you're going to run a wire up to the battery and do that? No, you're not going to be able to do that on there. And I see someone asked a question there, how many amps does that B-Tech amp draw? Well, the one in the first part of the video, that's about 3 amps. It draws about 3 amps. So your normal cigarette lighter plug probably will be able to do that. If you got that spare one or something like that on the back, then yeah, probably be a little bit more apt to going ahead and doing that on there. And once again, it's kind of a crapshoot of what you have across the whole board on there. I know, for example, on our EMS pickup truck that we have, I think it's an F-250. I think it's the one we have. And then we also have some Explorers and some other ones and stuff. But they do, because maybe it's the plus or the police package or the upgraded heavy duty package or something. Yeah, those cigarette lighter amps or cigarette lighter plugs do have more amperage. But I'll be honest with you, I don't trust a cigarette lighter plug. I don't. They can pop out easy. They cannot make it. I've had some rental cars where I was like, okay, I'm going to plug in my phone to charge, a couple years ago, and I open it up and then there's a damn penny down there. And I was like, okay, well, great. What are we going to do here? So in that case, don't be fooled. Don't be lulled into that kind of thing on there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually jump ahead to our 4th video. And our 4th video was actually filmed today. And the reason I wanted to do that is because I didn't have this accessory, let's call it, available to me when I did these other videos. But I did one today, and I think it's going to be kind of a good one here. So let's jump ahead to this actually fourth video before we go to number 3, which is dealing with the antenna. So let's take a look at this accessory that I did today. Okay, we are back with a little bit of an update video. So since we were going to do the reboot, I guess we could say, or the re-upload of our video from when we aired it the first night, I figured we'd add on something more. And another consideration, because it kind of came up, some people messaged me and said, John, have you ever thought of this consideration? So let's go to it. Let me swip the camera. Alrighty, so here we are. Here's a situation that is popping up more and more common. We talked about having limited power outlets, and then, so let's pull this off here. So we're going to look at it there. See, it's 12 volts DC, and actually, if you take a look at it, it doesn't even tell you how many amperage it is there. So you have to go ahead and go to the fuse box and everything like that. But in vehicles that only have one cigarette lighter outlet, what do you do? So, for an example, what I use sometimes here is, you know, before we had USBs all over the place, we went along and we could have cigarette lighter adapters and stuff like that that have basically a USB port or a couple USB ports. And that's what this is set up here. It's set up in this regards. But now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce one of these. Now, these are pretty good. You got to get the right kind, okay? But we can move this out of the way. Now, I'm going to plug this in right here. When I plug it in right there, we see the USB outlet is active on there, okay? But more importantly, now we have 3 cigarette lighter plugs that came out of there. So we can pop the top off there. There's a good cigarette lighter plug there. And then we can take here and we'll just plug it in like this. And then, whoop, right there. And then in a minute, second, you'll hear the camera power on. There we go. So now the dash cam is powered on because we are using one of these. So this is a good option if you still need to charge cigarette lighter things. Now, a lot of people are saying, John, everything's USB these days. Yeah, yes and no. Okay, yes and no. A good example of where I might need a USB is I still actually have an old power cord, which actually has a mini USB, not a micro, but a mini, the old BlackBerry style USBs is what I kind of call them. Okay, that is on the end of the power cord. Now, the reason I have that, and I kept it around, is yes, I used it to power my Motorola phones or BlackBerries or whatever back then, but now what I can use it for is like on my scanners. I could still use it on my scanners, take it, and then if the batteries go dead, like on my Uniden 436, I think the handheld one there, that has a USB, I can power it that way. So this is pretty nice. Now, in addition to it, you got the USB up here, so we're going to take and plug it in right there. See, the person that had a USB who died, right? The old joke. They pushed him in the ground one way, and then they went along and put him in the ground the other way. Now, there we go. Now that I got it right in there, now I'm using the USB, and I still have these freed or available here, and you'll hear it power up the camera in 1 second. There you go. The camera powered up. So another thing to think about or consider when you're actually going to go mobile and you're not going to mount anything specifically in the vehicle, so like a rental car or something like that. All right, so that was the video I did today, and it's a consideration because once again, we're talking about like a rental car. We're talking about using someone else's vehicle, wife's vehicle or something. And I've started to find that, back in the day when cars had cigarette lighter plugs all over the place, I mean, literally all over the place. You had like 3 or 4 of them up front. You had like maybe one in the middle seat if you had like a van or something, and then you had them in the back and stuff. But now, like I said, it doesn't have it. That was my truck. I have one cigarette lighter plug. I got like 8 USBs, and regular size USB and USB-C even. And then I have 2 actual AC 110 volt outlets in the vehicle, but only 1 cigarette lighter plug. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. So if you're going to be doing something like that on a temporary basis, hey, this little device is good for you. Now, where I picked it up, believe it or not, I actually picked it up, I think it was at a ham radio outlet. It was there. It's great. Like I said, it's got that USB outlet. If for some reason, if you're in a car that doesn't have a USB outlet and you need to charge with the USB outlet, or maybe it only has very limited USB outlets, or whatever the case may be. But this was kind of that nice device on there. Another one that I have, which I couldn't find anymore. I got one for wiring up some stuff on one of our rigs for like, the dash cams and some other minor stuff, GPS and stuff like that on there. But there was a nicer one out there that's actually like a little box and it has the 3 cigarette lighter outlets, has little toggle on off buttons for those cigarette lighter outlets, and then it has 2 USB ports on the top and then 2 USB ports on the side. And they even give the regular charge, the faster charge, and the super charge. So something else to kind of go ahead and think about. Now, this last consideration for that temporary install on there is going to require and be related to antennas. And that is going to be the fourth part, or actually third video, if we were going in order, of tonight's episode. So let's take a look at that. Okay, another issue that we kind of run into to talk about when we're going to be traveling and stuff like that is the antenna, right? This is a rental vehicle. We can't do an antenna on there. So what do we do? So my suggestion to you would be to go ahead and get one of these little mini antennas. They're pretty good. I'll kind of actually take it, see if it's a little bit better. This is a dual band one. I think this one might be made by MFJ. I know there's a few other ones in there and stuff like that, but it's really easy, a really simple small cable, can handle about 50 watts. And then what you do is you just basically kind of do the quick insert here. So I like to tuck it just kind of in that trim line a little bit here real quick, and that way, especially like if it's raining, as you can see here and stuff like that, and just kind of run it down, and then you can run it underneath the cable. And I'll get to this in 1 second here, sorry about that, but you can run the cable down here. And the nice thing about this style is that it has an SMA connector on there. So I can connect it directly to a radio. I can connect it directly to a scanner if I want to. It's an SMA male on there, so you can get an adapter if you need to. But basically, I can connect this to, like, I have my Uninet scanner to listen to on there. Otherwise, they make an adapter or many different things. So that's kind of the actual kind of nice part, that you can make a quick kind of installation when you have a rental vehicle or when you're using some other vehicle that's not yours, where you can't install a radio. So that's the antenna portion kind of it on there. Alrighty. So that, once again, there we go. Looking at a simple antenna, I actually tend to use that antenna a lot with me when I do travel, just because I hook it up to my scanner. I really like that antenna. I've had some people that have debated me. They're like, magnet mount antenna like that, it's probably about the same as if you have an antenna in the car. And I said, well, I guess we'll left Twix, right Twix, that kind of thing on stuff on there. But those little antennas are pretty nice. I do have another one that I didn't show in the video. It's got a little bit more of a magnet base, and it's one of those compact antennas, I think it is. And then I know if I'm going to be going a long distance and I want to get some good range on there, I actually have, I believe it's a Comet NMO. It's one of those really wideband antennas that transmit and receive like one amateur all the way up to like LMR public safety, and then it also does UHF amateur bands as well as doing GMRS frequencies on there. And I really like that because if I carry that antenna, it's dual band. If I'm on my MERS radio or handheld, that antenna covers it. If I'm GMRS, that antenna covers it. If I'm amateur band, that antenna covers it. So it's a really nice wideband antenna. I believe it's made by Comet. It's like I'm sure someone knows, it's like a 2x4 SAR, something like that on there. But that's kind of that antenna set on there. But that kind of completes our video series. But hey, as people said, and they like it, and it wouldn't be a show if we didn't do our last segment of the show here. What really bends my antenna? And since we're talking about rental vehicles and stuff like that, what really bends my antenna is that this day and age, man, you would think the innovation of cars and communications and power sources and everything would come back along the way that it should be progressing. Yeah, not wrong. As you saw in this video here, the rental car I had 2 cigarette lighter outlets. Great. And they were on opposite ends of the car. Okay, fine. But, it kind of gets down to that situation is that cars are becoming more and more electronic. And it's really kind of some cases becoming a real pain in the, down there. And the reason being is that, hey, you think you have a USB simply on there that you can go ahead and use, plug that USB cable from your phone into there, and guess what? Now your car wants to sync up with Android Auto or Apple CarPlay. It just is like, really, guys, come on. Another thing is that as we start to move more and more into cars, or maybe you already have it in your own personal vehicle, but I get a luck of a draw when I get a rental car. And that is for actual interference. There's so much stuff flying around in there. You don't have normal AM, FM radios anymore. Heck, for that matter, you don't even have CD players. And, most of the USB stuff can actually download or, how do you say, listen to your music if you do that. And sometimes I carry around a little USB, tiny little USB fob. I'll plug it in there. It's got all my recorded music on there so I can actually listen to it if I don't like the AM, FM radio stations, if I don't have Sirius XM, all that kind of fun stuff on there. But what's really starting to happen is a lot of these cars are becoming hotbeds for interference. And this is now extending into your own. Plus, also, too, is some of the accessories you're using out there, it really kind of makes it a pain in the butt to have things. I can tell you, I've gone through numerous different cigarette lighter adapters where you plug it in, you got the USB ports on there. As a matter of fact, one time, we completely couldn't figure it out. In my wife's vehicle, we mounted our FTM 400 in this case here. But it happened on a bunch of other radios, too. And the next thing we know is all of a sudden it was like, why are we getting interference? And we couldn't figure out why. We'd be going down the road listening to multiple radios we installed in there. And after a while, or at certain points, it would be like the radio just went super deaf. Well, it was one day that I happened to be sitting in there playing on the band scope on a couple different radios. And the next thing I know is all of a sudden, wait a minute here. Why do I have such a high noise floor? Like the band scope was just showing this huge noise floor. Well, I started to look around. What is doing electricity? What is causing electricity? So I turned off the car completely. Now, I had the radio wired directly to the battery, so it still provided air. And the minute I turned off the power, or the engine, everything went away. The noise floor just, boom, shot down. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Start the car back up. It's fine. Well, what do I start doing? I start pulling everything electronic-wise. I start disconnecting other radios. I start disconnecting GPSs. I start disconnecting everything. And I pulled out the cigarette lighter plug, which was being turned into a USB because that vehicle didn't have a USB on there. The minute I pulled it out and we get back after I traded all things, now I was like, oh, wait a minute, that noise floor is gone. Started hooking things one by one. And sure as the day is long, that little cigarette lighter to USB adapter, minute I plugged it in, even without anything plugged into it, just plugged it into the outlet, boom, that noise floor shot up. Now, how does that equate to today? Well, I could tell you that I have a friend who told me, who's also in public safety, he said, John, I know when my transmission is going to go on my truck. And I said, how do you know that? He says, well, when he carries his fire pager on his hip and he has it in open mode, he started to notice he wouldn't have problems. But then one day he started to go ahead and started to have interference. Not a lot of interference, but just student interferences. And when we played it back down and everything like that, next thing you know is all of a sudden, boom, turns into a situation that he noticed it was like when he was slowing down or going on there. So it was like, what the heck is going on? Well, then all of a sudden he started to notice it started to be progressively worse. Then he noticed his transmission was having a hard time shifting. Well, sure enough, his transmission was going bad. So finally, he ended up getting a new transmission because he liked the truck, didn't want to get rid of it. So he gets a new transmission, everything was fine. Then what started to happen is that slowly after a couple months started to happen again. Well, he was kind of like a mobile carrier that would go ahead and do a lot of hauling and towing and stuff like that. So he really put a lot of stress on his transmission. Well, guess what? His transmission was going back bad again. Now, all of a sudden, the next thing you know is all of a sudden he was having that thing on there. So what really bends my intent about this is that in the automotive innovation and stuff like that, we've really started to go ahead and notice that they're not really giving us power sources and good connections, and they're creating a lot of interference. Which maybe even being more continuous thought about beds or antenna is that, hey, guess what? I wonder if this chip shortage, this component shortage we have, and everybody's scrambling to get replacement components. Could this go ahead and have a pretty significant impact on there? Yeah, some things are required to be Part 15 certified or, not causing interference, but let's be honest, sometimes some of the equipment that might come overseas and get put in vehicles, maybe if they needed to go through the FCC type acceptance, they may not have. But at least these components hopefully aren't going to be listed as pottery to come in for two-way radios. So with that, that's kind of the end of tonight's episode of The Redo. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody for this. Once again, my episodes are here to help you kind of think about it, to see how you're going to do it. And I thought this was a good one because, like I said, took a little road trip, but I'm sure a lot of people are going to be coming to Hamvention in a couple weeks there. I hope to see everybody there. But you know what? People are going to be riding in other people's cars. You know, we're going to go ahead and screw things down into the dash or no, we're not going to do that. Okay. We're not going to do that. So this kind of hopefully will give you some ideas. But until then, I want to tell everybody to stay safe. We are going to be back next Monday, not to worry. And next Monday, we will be live. Okay, we will be live, not to worry. I'm not sure if we're going to be at this studio or we might be at another studio or wherever we're at. We got a couple things going on here, but we will be back live. Until then, stay safe, take care of yourself. And if you got those great cigars, go ahead and smoke them. Until then, take care.